let's start at the beginning. Where did your story truly begin?
So, I was born in Lázaro Cárdenas in Chihuahua, Mexico. And when I was a couple months old, swam across the river. Over to El Paso. And El Paso is where I basically lived my, small childhood. And it was up until about the age of 6 that we actually... This is New Mexico. Yeah. That's whenever I remember starting school as a kindergartner. And then I just remember just out of nowhere moving to Tula, Texas. And later on, I found out that the reason we moved to Tula, Texas was because, my father was a DV with my mom so much that they had problems with the family. My mom's side of the family is the ones that live there in Las Cruces. So we moved over to Tula, Texas, where that's the part of the family that my dad lives. And that's where I started going to school at about 3rd grade, was in Tula, Texas.
What was your childhood like?
3rd grade, man, childhood was awesome. Bike riding. We used to ride our bikes everywhere. There was actual places, like there in Tula, Texas, there's a place called the Caliche Pit, and it's like ramps and stuff like that. We used to do that. We used to paintball a lot. We used to do a lot of fishing. We were pretty much farmer boys, man. We used to hop hay bales and just be out there chasing rabbits and stuff like that. So that's how childhood was. Through junior high, and then, that's whenever you started trying to go on little dates, little movie dates, things like that. Then, comes where everything really starts melting down for me, because before then I was just a child, nothing about bills, nothing about money, just living, having fun, waking up, when can I go play when do I come back inside? Things like that.
You were a good kid, athletic. You love football. When did things start to change?
Man, I loved football. I love contact sport. I love the fact that you could suit up and just go out there and just lay somebody out, flat on the ground. I love football. I love baseball. I did love track, a lot of track. I did a lot of pole vault. Hanging out with the friends, just being out there, being a part of a group, being in a uniform, all of that was just really, really cool to me. It was it was sports. It was swimming pool. It's like, we're going to the pool today. We're gonna go jump on the trampoline today. It's like with your friends, that's pretty much what my childhood was. Regular American childhood. Let's go get a snow cone. You and your 3 friends, you jump on the bike, take off down the street. There was no social media back then, none of that. So we really did. We threw the ball, we caught the ball. That's what we did on our off time. We would go out to the batting cages. Our town had batting cages. We had a good time. And this was through junior high. Coming into high school, high school was even better, because you have your freshman year, and then you have your JV, and then you have your varsity. So the girls, you know what I mean? The girls start coming into effect too. Of course, coming into high school, you start getting attracted to girls. You start talking to them more. You start flirting. You start dating, and of course, you start going to the movies. Back then, you would actually have to write out a little letter and then fold it up the cutest possible way you could, And then, in between classes, y'all already know how you used to just slide her the note. And that was the DMs back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I used to get the girls back in the day, was the DM in the little paper with the nice little fold and pull here tab and all that. So that was a very, very fun part. Growing up as an American childhood, baseball, ice creams, afternoon fun, all of that. Coming home when the lights turned on, and if not, your mom yelling, for you to come inside already. So that was pretty much my little American childhood. And
your sophomore year, you were enrolled. You mentioned being enrolled into a driver's ed course that they offered in school. What was that like?
So in like the freshman year, freshman year is always exciting because it's high school. Like I mentioned earlier, the girls, that's when you're really out there. Football was the best. Driving cars, learning how to drive them, stuff like that. Then we come into the sophomore year, In the sophomore year, that's when everything changed for me, just about. I want to just mention that. Sophomore year was the year that changed my entire life. And I remember it was that first day when I got to class and I had a driver's ed course. So I walk into class and we sit down and he's like, this is your driver's ed course. This is where you're going to get your driver's permit. And I've got it all, figured out. Car, girlfriend, ride around, all that stuff, So I'm excited, super excited. I'm like, man, I'm about to get my driver's license, or a permit at least. The teacher told me that I needed to take him my birth certificate and a social security card. And so right after that, I went home. After school, got home, asked my mom, hey mom, me están pidiendo, they're asking for, me están pidiendo por mi seguro social y por mi acta de nacimiento. Y pues ella me dice, mijo, pues, ¿para qué? Y le digo, porque quieren que lleve esos documentos para una licencia, for a driver's license, for a permit to be able to drive. Y eso es that's when she told me, she said, mijo, I need you to sit down for a second. And she was pretty much like, you weren't born here. She said, hold on.
It's okay.
She said, mijo, you weren't born here. You don't have any documentation. She said, you're gonna have to, I mean, it was an awkward conversation because, hold on. It was an awkward conversation because I had it all planned out and I didn't know what to do after that. So I get to school the next day and of course all the kids, they got it. They got the documents. Boom, 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 boom. Here it is. Let's go. Let's get started. Let's get started on the permit. And in the back of my head, I'm just like, shit, what do I do?